November 8, 1943. Fraser Valley, British Columbia. The freight car door slides open. Light floods in. Cold Canadian light. Sharp. Clean. Nothing like the dust-choked sun of Tunisia or the gray haze over Hamburg before the bombs came. Klaus Hartmann, 28 years old, 5 feet 9 inches tall, 152 pounds, steps down onto packed dirt. His boots hit solid ground for the first time in 11 days. The train journey across the Atlantic on a converted cargo ship. Then 3 more days on rails cutting through a country so vast it made Germany feel like a garden plot. He expects wire. He sees valley. Klaus turns. A full 360. Scanning. Low wooden barracks. Maybe 14 of them. Stretched in neat rows across cleared ground. Cookhouse. Smoke rising from a metal chimney. A medical hut with a red cross painted on the door. Wash barrels lined up outside the nearest building. Firewood stacked under a tarp. No guard towers. No searchlights. No coils of barbed wire glinting in the afternoon sun. No fence. His pulse spikes. Not relief. Not gratitude. Pure animal dread. Because Klaus Hartmann was a construction engineer before the war. He built things. He understood systems. And he knows this truth in his bones. If they don't need fences, they've already won. Behind him, another man drops from the freight car. Then another. Then 12 more. Then 40. Then all 120 German prisoners stumble into the light, blinking like men pulled from a cave. They see what Klaus sees. Open land. Dark pine forest in the distance. Low blue mountains rolling under a pale November sky. A dirt road leading toward a town maybe 5 miles east. And beyond the barracks, beyond the cleared ground, beyond the thin line of buildings, nothing. Nothing to stop a man from walking straight into the trees. A tall prisoner with blonde hair goes still. His name is Johann Eisenhardt. 24 years old. 6'1", 145 pounds. Down from 170 before he stopped eating well in the British holding camp at Casablanca. He was a law student at Munich before he traded books for a rifle he barely knew how to use. Johann's mouth opens. Closes. Opens again. "Where is the camp?" he whispers in German. An older man next to him, spectacles sliding down his nose, answers quietly. "This is the camp." Ernst Lindemann. 54. 5'7", 138 pounds. Professor of European history at the University of Berlin until 1940, when the army decided historians could carry weapons as well as anyone. His hands shake slightly, not from cold, from the effort of believing what his eyes report. A ripple moves through the prisoners. Nervous laughter. The kind that comes when the world stops making sense. A Canadian sergeant stands near the tracks. Mid-30s, clipboard in hand. He lifts it and calls out in calm, almost bored English. Right then, out you come. Bring your kit if you've got it. No shouting. No threats. No rifle but banging against the wagon to hurry them along. The prisoners glance at each other. Some confused. Some suspicious. A few already calculating. Klaus watches a man near the back of the group. Older than most. 35. 6 feet even. 158 pounds of hard muscle. Jaw tight. Eyes scanning the terrain like he's planning an operation. Viktor Reinhardt. Former SS officer. Though he's removed the insignia from his uniform. Scraped them off with a rock during the Atlantic crossing. But Klaus knows. Everyone knows. Victor carries authority like a second skin. Even here. Even in defeat. Victor's gaze sweeps the valley. Once. Twice. Then he turns to the nearest group of prisoners and speaks low and fast. "This is a trick. They want us calm. Compliant. But make no mistake, this is still a cage. Just one we can't see yet." Klaus hears him. Doesn't respond. But he files the words away. The Canadian sergeant gestures toward the barracks. "You'll be assigned quarters. Medical check tomorrow. Meal service in 90 minutes. Wash up if you like." Another guard steps forward. Younger. Maybe 26. Tall. 5'11". Reddish-brown hair. He wears the uniform of the Canadian Army, but something about his face doesn't quite fit. sharp cheekbones, a seriousness in his eyes that seems older than his years. This guard walks to the front of the group and speaks. In German, perfect, unaccented German. My name is Sergeant Callum Brennan. I'll be your primary liaison. If you have questions about camp procedures, you ask me. If you have medical concerns, you report them. If you need translation assistance, I'm available. The prisoners freeze. A German-speaking Canadian guard. Either very good intelligence work or something else entirely. Klaus studies Brennan's face. The shape of his nose. The set of his mouth. Something familiar there. Something that doesn't come from a language course. Brennan continues. You'll be divided into groups of 24. Each group assigned one barracks. You will not be locked in. You're expected to maintain order yourselves. Johann leans close to Klaus. Whispers. Did he just say we won't be locked in? Klaus nods once. Doesn't break his stare from Brennan. There's a boundary line, Brennan says, marked by painted stones. You're free to move within campgrounds. You're not permitted beyond the boundary without supervision. Don't go making trouble. A prisoner near the front. Young, maybe 19, face still round with adolescent fat despite weeks of poor rations. Raises his hand. Timid, like he's back in school. Sergeant? Where are the fences? Brennan looks at him. Not unkindly. Don't need them. 3 words. That's all. Don't need them. The silence that follows is heavier than wire. They're assigned to Barrack 7. Klaus, Johann, Ernst, and 21 others. The building is 14 feet wide, 60 feet long. 24 bunks. Thin mattresses. Wool blankets folded at the foot of each bed. A cast-iron stove in the center. A handwritten schedule tacked near the door. Meal times. Work details.
Range rotations.
Medical checkups. Nothing about punishment. Nothing about confinement. Nothing about what happens if you run. Klaus takes the bunk nearest the window. Not the best position for warmth. But it gives him a view. He needs to see. Johann claims the bunk next to him. Sits heavily. Stares at his hands. This doesn't feel real, Johann says. Ernst, 2 bunks down, removes his spectacles. Polishes them on his sleeve. It's real. Just not what we expected reality to look like. But no fence, Johann insists. How do they? Language, Ernst interrupts gently. Distance. Winter. The fact that we're 2,000 miles from anything German. They don't need wire when the country itself is the prison. Klaus listens but doesn't comment. He's busy counting. The barracks door. Unlocked. The windows. No bars. The boundary line. 200 yards from the barracks to the painted stones. Then forest. Dark. Dense. Endless. He pulls a small object from his coat pocket. A brass compass. 4 centimeters in diameter. Made in Hamburg. The only thing he kept from before the war besides the clothes on his back. Klaus turns it over in his palm. The needle swings. Settles. North. But knowing the direction doesn't mean knowing the way. That first evening they eat. Long wooden tables in the mess hall. Thick stew. Potatoes. Bread. Butter. Not much butter, but real butter. Not the sawdust mix paste they'd been given on the ship. Klaus watches Victor sit at the head of one table. Organizing. Already establishing hierarchy. Pointing to prisoners. Assigning roles. Someone to keep order. Someone to report problems. Someone to maintain what Victor calls discipline. Ernst sits across from Klaus. Eats slowly. Thoughtfully. He's building a command structure. Ernst observes quietly. He's scared, Klaus replies.
Ernst raises an eyebrow.
Scared men don't organize. They panic. Scared men organize when panic doesn't work anymore. Klaus takes a bite of bread. Chews. Swallows. Victor needs control. And the only thing he can control here is us.
Johann leans in.
Should we join him? Strength in numbers, right? Klaus shakes his head. Strength is knowing when to let go. But Johann doesn't look convinced. After the meal, Brennan appears at the mess hall entrance. Gestures to Klaus. Hartmann, you speak English. Klaus stands. Walks over. Some. Learned for my work. Engineering projects. Good. I need a translator. Someone I can rely on when I need to communicate with the group. You interested? Klaus hesitates. Translator means visibility. Means being caught between two sides. Means Victor will notice. But it also means access. Information. Understanding what the Canadians are thinking. I'll do it, Klaus says. Brennan nods. Report to the headquarters building tomorrow, 0800. Lieutenant Colonel Fraser wants to address the camp. Who's Fraser?
Camp commandant.
He'll explain how things work here. That night, Klaus can't sleep. He lies on his bunk, blanket pulled to his chin, and stares at the ceiling. Around him, men breathe. Some snore. One mutters in his sleep. Dreaming or remembering. Hard to tell the difference anymore. Klaus hears Johann shift in the bunk beside him. You awake?
Johann Vispas.
Yeah. What are you thinking? Klaus is quiet for a long moment. Then, I'm thinking about how easy it would be. What would be? Walking out. Right now. Through that door. Across the boundary. Into the trees. Johann props himself up on one elbow. You serious? Just thinking. How far do you think we'd get? Klaus pictures it. The dark forest. The cold. The mountains. The distance to anywhere that isn't here. Not far. So why think about it? Because I want to know if I stay because I can't leave, or because I choose to stay. Johann lies back down. That's a hell of a question. It's the only question that matters. November 9th. Morning. Klaus walks to the headquarters building. Small structure. Wood frame. Single room. A desk. Maps on the wall. Canadian and British flags in the corner. Lieutenant Colonel Alistair Fraser sits behind the desk. 48 years old. Gray at the temples. Square jaw. Eyes that have seen things. He wears his uniform like a man who's earned the right to be tired. Fraser looks up when Klaus enters. Gestures to a chair.
Seat.
You're Hartmann. Yes, sir. Brennan says you speak English. Says you're an engineer. Was an engineer. Before. Fraser nods. Opens a folder. I want to explain how this camp operates, and I need you to translate this to your men. Accurately.
No editions. No omissions.
Understood. Understood. Fraser stands. Walks to the window. Looks out at the valley. This isn't a punishment camp. You're not here because we hate you. You're here because the war put you here. My job is to keep you safe, healthy, and occupied until the war ends and you can go home. Klaus translates the words in his head. Weighing them, Fraser continues. You'll work. Light labor. Timber cutting. Road repair. Farm assistance. You'll be paid. Small amount. Enough for tobacco or personal items. You'll follow camp rules. You'll treat my men with respect. In return, we'll treat you according to the Geneva Convention. That means adequate food. Medical care. Shelter. No abuse.
No torture.
He turns back to Klaus. You're not my prisoners. You're war's prisoners. I'm just the man keeping the door until it's time for you to leave. Klaus feels something shift in his chest. Not trust. Not yet. But the beginning of something he can't quite name. I'll tell them, Klaus says. Good. Because some of your men won't want to hear it. Some will think it's a trick. Some will test the boundaries. Some will try to run. Fraser's expression doesn't change. Let them. They won't get far. And when we bring them back, we won't hurt them. We'll just feed them and put them back to work. Why? Fraser raises an eyebrow. Why what? Why treat us this way? We're the enemy. Fraser sits back down. Folds his hands on the desk. Because, son, I've seen what happens when you treat men like animals. They become animals. And when this war ends, and it will end, I want to be able to look in the mirror and know I stayed human. Klaus delivers the message that afternoon. 120 prisoners gathered in the yard. Cold wind coming down from the mountains. Victor stands at the front with his arms crossed. Klaus repeats Fraser's words. Everyone. Exactly as spoken. When he finishes, silence. Then Victor laughs. Short, sharp, humorless. They think we're fools. They want us docile, cooperative. They want us to forget who we are. Ernst steps forward. Or maybe they're exactly what they claim to be. No one is what they claim to be, Victor snaps. This is war. Everything is strategy. And what's your strategy?
Ernst asks mildly.
Build walls where none exist? Victor's jaw tightens. Maintain discipline. Maintain identity. Maintain readiness for the day we return to Germany. Return to what?
Ernst gestures vaguely eastward.
The Germany we left doesn't exist anymore. It's burning. We all know it. Then we'll rebuild it. With what?
Bride?
Ash. Victor takes a step toward Ernst. Klaus moves between them. Quiet. Firm. Not here, Klaus says. Not now. Victor stares at him. Long and hard. Then turns and walks away. Johann appears at Klaus's elbow. That went well. Could have been worse. Could it? Klaus doesn't answer. November 9th. Evening. Darkness comes early this far north. By 1700 hours, the sun is gone. Stars punch through the sky like nail holes in black fabric. Klaus stands outside the barracks. Breath misting. Hands in his pockets. Johann steps out. Closes the door behind him. Can't sleep either? Haven't tried yet. Johann looks toward the boundary line. The painted stones barely visible in the dimness. You meant what you said last night? About walking out. I meant I thought about it. I'm thinking about it now. Klaus turns to face him. Don't. Why not? You said it yourself, easy. Just walk. Easy to start walking. Hard to know where to stop. Johann shakes his head. We could make it. Two of us. You know directions. I'm strong. We go south. Find the border. Cross into the States. Disappear. Disappear into what? We don't speak the language well enough. We have no money. No papers. No winter gear. The temperature will drop below freezing in 3 weeks. You want to freeze to death proving a point. What point? That you're still a soldier. Still fighting. Still free.
Johann's shoulders sag.
I don't feel free. None of us do. But walking into the forest won't change that. Then what will? Klaus pulls out the compass. Holds it up. The needle swings. Settles. Knowing the difference between being trapped and being lost. Johann stares at the compass. Then at Klaus. You're not making sense. I know. Klaus pockets the compass. But let's test it anyway. Test what? How far we can go before we stop ourselves. They walk. Not running. Not sneaking. Just two men taking a walk after dinner. They cross the yard. Past the wash barrels. Step over the painted stone boundary line.
No alarm sounds.
No searchlight snaps on. No voice shouts for them to halt. They keep walking. The forest is 30 yards ahead. Dark. Impenetrable from a distance. But as they get closer, Klaus can see gaps. Paths, game trails cut by deer or elk. They enter the trees. The temperature drops immediately. The canopy blocks what little light the stars provide. Klaus's eyes adjust slowly. Johann walks beside him, breathing harder than the pace requires. How far?
Johann whispers.
Until we know. Know what? Whether we're doing this because we can, or because we're testing if they'll stop us. They walk for 15 minutes, maybe half a mile. The camp is invisible behind them now. Just trees. Darkness. Cold. Then Klaus stops. Johann stops too. What? Klaus listens. Wind through branches. His own heartbeat.
Johann's ragged breathing.
And under it all a low, distant sound. Long and mournful. Wolves. Not close. Maybe miles away. But the sound carries. Johann's hand moves instinctively to his waist. Where a rifle would be. If he still had one. Klaus. I hear them. We should go back. Not yet. Klaus takes another 50 steps deeper. The trees press closer. The cold bites harder. His fingers are numb. He thinks about distance. About the 2,000 miles between here and anything German. About the border 300 miles south through mountains and wilderness. about winter coming, about the fact that even if they made it to a town, they'd stand out. Foreign, enemy, recognizable in 5 minutes. He thinks about the compass in his pocket. The needle points north. But north doesn't mean home. Klaus turns around. Okay, he says. Now we go back. They walk out of the forest, cross the boundary, walk across the yard. And there, standing outside the headquarters building, illuminated by a single lamp, is Callum Brennan. He's not holding a rifle. He's holding a tin cup. Steam rises from it. Klaus and Johann stop. Brennan walks over. Calm. Unhurried. Evening walk? He asks in German. Klaus nods. How far did you get? Half a mile. Maybe less. Brennan holds out the cup to Klaus. Cocoa. Still hot. Klaus stares at him. You're not going to report this? Report what? 2 men took a walk. You came back. We crossed the boundary. And you came back. Brennan repeats. That's what matters. Johann finds his voice. Why aren't you angry? Brennan's expression doesn't change. Because I've been doing this job long enough to know the difference between men who run and men who test. What's the difference? Men who run don't come back. Brennan looks at Klaus. You came back, which means you weren't running. You were thinking. Klaus takes the cup. The warmth seeps into his frozen fingers. He drinks. Chocolate. Real chocolate. Sweet. Rich. The first thing that's tasted like comfort in months. Thank you, Klaus says. Brennan nods. Turns to walk back to headquarters. Then pauses. For what it's worth, he says without looking back. You can walk the boundary every night if you want. No one will stop you. But eventually you'll figure out what you already know. What's that? Brennan glances over his shoulder. The fence isn't out there. He taps the side of his head. Always has been in here. Then he's gone. Johann and Klaus stand in the cold, passing the cup between them. What do you think he meant?
Johann asks.
Klaus looks at the forest, the darkness beyond. I think he means they don't need wire because we're already prisoners. Just not the way we thought. I don't understand. Klaus finishes the cocoa, hands the empty cup to Johann. Neither do I, but I think that's the point. November 10th. Klaus lies awake. He thinks about the walk, the trees, the wolves, the cold. He thinks about Brennan's words. And for the first time since the freight car door opened, Klaus begins to understand something terrible and true. They're not trapped by Canada. They're not trapped by distance. They're not trapped by winter or wilderness or war. They're trapped by the simple, undeniable fact that even with the door wide open, they don't know where to go. Because freedom without direction is just another kind of cage. Klaus pulls out the compass one more time, watches the needle settle. The needle knows north. But Klaus isn't sure that knowing the direction is enough. He closes his hand around the compass, feels the cold brass against his palm, and makes a choice. He'll stay. Not because he has to, but because right now, in this moment, choosing to stay is the only freedom he has left. Tomorrow, he'll start trying to understand what that means. But tonight, he lets the choice be enough. The barracks creaks. Wind rattles the windows. Someone coughs in their sleep. And Klaus Hartmann, 28 years old, 152 pounds, construction engineer from Hamburg, prisoner of war without offense, finally closes his eyes. November 11th. Work begins. Klaus stands in the yard at 0600. Frost coating the ground like powdered sugar. His breath clouds in the air. Around him, 120 prisoners form lines. Waiting. Lieutenant Colonel Fraser walks down the rows, clipboard in hand. Behind him, Brennan translates.
Timber detail.
40 men. Road repair. 30 men. Farm labor. 20 men. Remaining 30 on camp maintenance. Laundry. Kitchen assistants. Firewood. Klaus watches Fraser's face. No anger there. No contempt. Just a man doing a job. Organizing. Efficient. Fraser stops in front of Klaus. Hartmann, you're with farm detail. We've got local farmers who need help with late harvest. Root vegetables mostly. Potatoes. Turnips. You'll be supervised, but the work's straightforward. Yes, sir. Fraser moves on. Victor stands 3 men down the line, arms crossed, jaw tight. When Fraser passes, Victor speaks. Lo, in German. They're using us. Free labor. While our country burns. Fraser doesn't understand the words. But he understands the tone. He stops. Turns. Something to say, soldier? Victor meets his eyes. Doesn't blink. No, sir. Fraser studies him for a long moment, then nods and continues down the line. Klaus sees the muscle working in Victor's jaw. Sees the rage compressed into stillness. This won't end well. The farm is 8 miles east. Klaus, Johann, and 18 others ride in the back of a flatbed truck. 2 guards up front. Brennan drives. Another guard, older, weather-worn, rides shotgun. The truck bounces over dirt roads, through forest, past clearings where stumps show recent logging. The morning sun cuts through pine branches in long golden shafts. Johann sits next to Klaus, quiet, staring at his hands. You okay? Klaus asks.
Johann shrugs.
Just thinking about home. My mother. Whether she knows I'm alive. Red Cross notifies families. If the Red Cross still functions. If Hamburg still functions. If... Johann stops, shakes his head. Never mind. Klaus doesn't push. The truck turns onto a smaller road. Rougher. Then pulls up to a farmhouse. 2-story. White clapboard. Green shutters. A barn behind it. Fields stretching east and south. Rows of dark earth where crops have been pulled. A few remaining plots still showing green tops of root vegetables. A woman stands on the porch. 32. Maybe 33. Tall. 5'8". Brown hair pulled back in a practical bun. She wears canvas work pants. Heavy boots. A wool sweater against the cold. Her face is wind-worn. Lined around the eyes. Not from age. From weather. From work. From something harder. Brennan kills the engine. Steps out. Morning, Mrs. Drummond. Morning, Sergeant. Her voice is steady. Flat.
No worms. No hostility.
Just function. Brought you the labor detail. 20 men. They'll work till 1600 hours. Then we'll transport them back. Eleanor Drummond looks at the prisoners climbing down from the truck. Her expression doesn't change. But Klaus sees her hands tighten on the porch railing. Germans, she says. Not a question. Yes, ma'am. How many of you speak English? Klaus raises his hand. Some. Enough. She looks at him. Really looks. Not at his uniform. At his face. You'll translate for the others? Yes, ma'am. She nods once. Tools are in the barn. We're pulling potatoes from the east field. 3 rows. You'll dig, collect, and load into bushel baskets. I'll show you once. After that, you work. Understood. Klaus translates. The men nod. Eleanor doesn't smile. Doesn't welcome them. Just turns and walks toward the barn. Klaus follows. The work is hard. Not complicated. Just hard. Day. Lift. Shake dirt loose. Drop potatoes in basket. Move to next plant. Repeat. Klaus's hands blister within an hour. The wooden handle of the spade rubs skin raw. His back aches from bending. His shoulders burn. But it's good work. Honest work. The kind that empties the mind. Johann works beside him. Breathing hard. Face red. How long you think we'll do this?
Johann asks.
Until the field's done. I mean in general. This camp. This work. How long until? Until the war ends. However long that takes. Johann drives his spade into the earth. Could be years. Could be. And we just dig potatoes? Better than digging trenches. Johann doesn't argue. Across the field, Victor works with 4 other men. He moves with military precision. Quick. Efficient. But Klaus sees him watching. Always watching. Gauging distances. Counting guards.
Mapping terrain.
Planning. By mid-morning, Eleanor appears with a water barrel. Metal cups hooked on the side. The prisoners stop. Look to Klaus. She's brought water, he says in German. Drink. They approach cautiously. like animals testing a trap. Eleanor stands back, arms crossed, face unreadable. One young prisoner, Lucas Mulberg, 19, round face, baker's apprentice from a small town outside Stuttgart, takes a cup with shaking hands. "Danke," he whispers. Eleanor's expression flickers, just for a second, then hardens again. Klaus drinks. The water is cold, clean. He watches Eleanor over the rim of the cup. "Your husband farm with you?" he asks in English. Her jaw tightens.
No.
"Where is he?" "Dead." Dieppe. August 1942. The words land like stones. Klaus lowers the cup.
I'm sorry.
"Don't be. You didn't kill him." She looks at the field, at the prisoners drinking her water. "The war did." Still nothing. Eleanor takes the cup from his hand. "Get back to work." November 12th through November 22nd. 10 days of labor. Klaus falls into rhythm. Wake at 05:30. Washington breakfast, oatmeal, toast, sometimes bacon. Muster at 0600. Truck to the farm. Work until 1600. Truck back. Dinner. Free time until lights out at 2200. Simple. Structured. Almost peaceful. Almost. Because underneath the routine, tension builds.
Victor Grossboulder.
He organizes evening meetings in Barracks 3. 50 men attend. Klaus doesn't go, but he hears the rumors. Victor says we're being softened. He says when the chance comes, we need to be ready. Ready for what? To remember who we are. Klaus listens, says nothing. Ernst sits on his bunk one evening, reading a book borrowed from the camp's small library. He glances at Klaus over his spectacles. "Victor's building something." "I know. Are you going to stop him?" "Can't stop a man from thinking."
No.
"But you can refuse to follow." Klaus pulls out the compass, turns it over in his hands. "I'm not following anyone. Not anymore." Ernst closes the book. "That's the hardest choice. Neither leading nor following. Just being." "Is it a choice?" "The only one that matters." At the farm, Klaus begins talking to Eleanor. Not much, just small exchanges. "Rain coming," she says one afternoon, studying the clouds. "How do you know?" "Smell. Pressure. Birds flying low. You learn to read the signs when your life depends on weather. In Germany we had..." Klaus stops. "Had what?" "Doesn't matter. Not anymore." Eleanor looks at him. "You can talk about before. It doesn't make you weak. It makes me someone who lives in the past."
No.
"It makes you someone with a past. There's a difference." Klaus considers this. Then, "We had an orchard. Behind my grandparents' house. Apple trees. Old ones. Every October we'd pick them. Make cider. My grandfather had this press. Wooden. You'd turn the crank and..." He stops again. Eleanor waits. "I don't know if any of it's still there," Klaus finishes quietly. "Probably not," Eleanor says. "Honest. Not cruel. But that doesn't mean it wasn't real." November 23rd. Evening. Klaus sits outside the barracks. Cold settling in. Temperature dropping toward freezing. Lucas Mulberg approaches. The young baker. Nervous. Fidgeting. "Klaus? Can I talk to you?" "Sure." Lucas sits. Wrings his hands. "Victor talked to me today." Klaus's stomach tightens. "About what?" "About proving myself. About showing I'm still a German soldier. About..." Lucas's voice drops to a whisper. "About running." "Running where?" "South. To the border." Victor says if enough of us go, they can't stop everyone. Says the young ones should try first. Test their response. Klaus keeps his voice level. "And what did you say?" "I said I'd think about it." "Don't think about it. Say no." Lucas looks at him. Eyes wide. Scared. "But what if he's right? What if this is our chance?" "Chance for what?" "To freeze to death in the mountains? To get lost in a country where you don't speak the language? To be free." Klaus takes out the compass. Holds it up so Lucas can see. "You know what this tells me? Direction. North. South. East. West. but it doesn't tell me where to go. It doesn't tell me what's worth reaching. It just points. He closes his hand around it. Freedom without destination is just wandering. And wandering gets you killed. Lucas stares at the ground. I can't stay here. I can't just dig potatoes while everything I know burns. Then dig them while you figure out what comes next. But don't run into nothing thinking it's something. Lucas stands, shaking. Victor says men who don't try aren't men at all. Victor's wrong about a lot of things. But Lucas is already walking away. Klaus watches him go, and knows, deep in his bones, that this won't end quietly. November 23rd, 2300 hours. Klaus lies in his bunk. Can't sleep. He hears it before he sees it. A soft creak. The barracks door opening. Closing. Klaus sits up. Looks around. Lucas's bunk is empty. Klaus is out of bed in seconds. Pulls on boots. Grabs his coat.
Johann Stiers.
What's wrong? Lucas is gone. Gone where? Where do you think? Klaus is out the door. Johann scrambles after him. The yard is dark. Empty. Klaus runs to the boundary line. There, barely visible in the starlight, a figure moving toward the forest. Small. Young. Lucas. Klaus starts to follow. Johann grabs his arm. If we go after him, we'll both get caught. He won't make it. Then let him learn. Klaus yanks his arm free. He's 19. He'll die learning. But Johann's right. If Klaus crosses the boundary now, if he's caught, he stands at the painted stones, frozen, watching Lucas disappear into the trees. Behind him, a voice. He won't get far. Klaus spins. Brennan stands there, calm, hands in pockets. You knew, Klaus says. Suspected. Your man Victor's been recruiting. We've been watching. And you just let him go? We let him try. There's a difference. He's a kid. He's old enough to fight a war. Old enough to make bad choices. Brennan steps forward. Looks at the forest. We'll find him. Probably tomorrow. Day after at most. Bring him back. Feed him. No punishment. No beating. Just back to routine. Why? Because beating him would make him a martyr. Would prove Victor right. But letting him fail? Letting him see how far he doesn't get. Brennan shakes his head. That's the lesson that sticks. Klaus feels sick. You're using him.
No.
We're letting him use himself. Big difference. Brennan turns to go, then pauses. For what it's worth, you made the right call. Not following him. That took strength. Klaus doesn't feel strong. He feels like a coward. November 24th. The camp buzzes. Everyone knows. Lucas ran. No one stopped him. Victor moves through the barracks like a general inspecting troops. Confident. Vindicated. See? They don't even try to stop us. Because they can't. The fence is an illusion. Ernst sits on his bunk, shaking his head slowly. Klaus works the farm detail. Distracted. Hands moving automatically. They. Lift. Shake. Drop. Eleanor notices. Something wrong. One of our men ran last night. I heard. Brennan told me. Klaus looks up. You don't seem worried. Should I be? He's out there. Lost. Cold. He made a choice. He's 19. Old enough to choose. Eleanor drives her own spade into the earth. My husband was 22 when he died. Thought he was invincible. Thought charging a beach would make him a hero. Her voice hardens. It just made him dead. Klaus has no response to that. They work in silence. November 25th. 1400 hours. Klaus is loading potatoes when he hears the truck. Not the usual work detail truck. A different one. Military transport. The prisoners stop working. Watch. The truck pulls up to the farmhouse. 2 Canadian soldiers in the cab. And in the back, wrapped in a thick wool blanket, shivering Lucas. Klaus's chest tightens. The soldiers help Lucas down. He can barely walk. His boots are soaked. His face is pale. His lips have a blue tinge. One soldier speaks to Eleanor. She nods, disappears into the house, returns with a thermos. They give it to Lucas. He drinks, hands shaking so hard he can barely hold it. Klaus moves closer. Brennan appears from the truck cab. Found him at a general store, 15 miles south. Tried to buy food with Reichsmarks. Brennan's tone is neutral. Shopkeeper gave him soup. Called us. Is he hurt? Hypothermia. Dehydration. Blisters.
Nos signes permanents.
Lucas looks up. Sees Klaus. His eyes fill with tears. I'm sorry. Lucas whispers in German. I'm so sorry. Klaus doesn't know if he's apologizing for running or for failing. Maybe both. It's okay, Klaus says, knowing it's not. The soldiers load Lucas back into the truck. Drive away. The farm detail stands in silence. Victor isn't here. He's on timber detail today. But Klaus knows what he'll say. The boy was weak. Should have gone farther. Should have been smarter. Always someone else's fault. 1600 hours. Back at camp. Klaus walks straight to the headquarters building. Fraser is there. Writing reports. Hartmann. Komein. Klaus enters. Closes the door. What happens to Lucas? Fraser sets down his pen. Medical check. Hot meal. Rest. Tomorrow he's back on regular duty. That's it. That's it. No punishment. No confinement.
No.
Klaus struggles to understand. Why? Fraser leans back in his chair. Because I told you you're not my prisoners in the way you think. Punishment would be if he'd hurt someone, stolen something, caused harm. He didn't. He just ran. And running taught him more than any punishment I could devise. Victor will say you're weak. Let him. Fraser's expression doesn't change. I don't need Victor to respect me. I need him to understand that his way, control through fear, that doesn't work here. What if he tries again? What if more of them run? Fraser smiles. Tired.
Sad.
Then they'll learn the same lesson. The door's open, but there's nowhere to go. And that's harder than any locked gate. Klaus turns to leave. Hartmann. He stops. You didn't follow him. That night. Why? Klaus thinks about the compass. About direction versus destination. About the difference between being trapped and being lost. Because running away isn't the same as being free. Fraser nods. Exactly. November 26th. Lucas returns to the barracks. The men gather around him. Some sympathetic. Some curious. Some Victor's followers, disappointed. Victor himself stands apart. Arms crossed. When the crowd disperses, he approaches Lucas. You failed. Lucas flinches. I tried. Trying means nothing. Results are everything. I couldn't. The cold. I got lost. Excuses. Victor's voice is ice. You embarrassed yourself. Embarrassed us. Klaus steps between them. That's enough. Victor's eyes narrow. This doesn't concern you. He's 19. He's exhausted. He's learned his lesson. Leave him alone. His lesson? His lesson should be that weakness isn't tolerated.
No.
Klaus's voice hardens. His lesson is that your plan was stupid. That sending a teenager into the wilderness with no preparation was cruelty disguised as leadership. The barracks go silent. Victor takes a step closer to Klaus. They're inches apart. You've become soft, comfortable. You've forgotten who you are. I know exactly who I am. I'm someone who doesn't send kids to die to prove a point. Victor's hand moves. Fast. Klaus sees it coming. But before Victor can swing, Ernst is there, placing himself between them. Enough. Ernst's voice is quiet but absolute. We're not animals. We're not savages. We're men trying to survive something none of us chose. Fighting each other doesn't change that. Victor stares at Ernst, then at Klaus, then at the men watching. He sees he's lost this round. This isn't over, Victor says. He walks away. Johann appears at Klaus's side. You made an enemy. I made an enemy the day I refused to hate everyone who isn't German. That might get you hurt. Klaus looks at Lucas. The boy is sitting on his bunk, head in hands, shaking. Some things are worth getting hurt for. November 28th. Klaus works the farm. Eleanor is quieter than usual. At the water break, she speaks. The boy who ran. He okay? Physically, yes. Everything else. Klaus shakes his head. Victor giving you trouble? Klaus looks at her. Surprised. How did you? Brennan tells me things. Says there's a man in your camp organizing. Says you stood up to him. Wasn't standing up. Was just doing what needed doing. That's what standing up is. Eleanor hands him a cup of water. My husband used to say that. Someone has to do what needs doing. How did he die? If you don't mind. Dieppe Raid. 1942. August 19th. Churchill wanted to test Hitler's coastal defenses. Sent 5,000 Canadians. Came back with 2,000. Her voice is flat. Dead. He was one of the 3,000 who didn't. Klaus doesn't know what to say. Eleanor continues. You know what the worst part is? It didn't even matter. The raid failed. The intelligence was bad. The defenses were stronger than expected. They died for a test. She looks at Klaus directly. Your side killed him. German guns. German soldiers. Maybe even someone like you. Klaus feels the weight of it.
I'm sorry.
I told you, don't apologize. You didn't pull the trigger. She takes the cup back. But you wore the same uniform. Fought for the same country. Believed the same lies. I stopped believing. When? Tunisia. When I watched a boy, maybe 18, bleed out in the sand. British kid. Crying for his mother. And I realized he could have been German. Could have been me. The uniform didn't matter. Eleanor is quiet for a long time. Then, that's when you let one go, isn't it? Klaus's head snaps up. How? You have that look. Guilt. The kind that comes from mercy in a place that doesn't allow it. Klaus doesn't confirm. Doesn't deny. Eleanor nods. Good. Means you're still human. They return to work. But something has shifted between them. Not friendship. Not yet. But understanding. November 30th. Evening. Klaus sits outside. Writing a letter. The Red Cross allows 1 letter per month. Censored. Limited. He writes to his mother.
Der Mama.
I am safe. Federal healthy. The camp is in Canada. The work is farm labor. Nothing difficult. I think about home often. The orchard. Grandfather's cider press. Whether any of it remains. I don't know when I'll return. The war continues. But when it ends, I will come home. Whatever home looks like then. Tell Anna I remember her birthday. Tell Father I'm sorry. I'm learning something here. About freedom. About fences. About the difference between the two. I'm not sure how to explain it yet. But I'm trying to understand. Your son, Klaus. He folds the letter. Seals it. Knows it might never arrive. Knows Hamburg might not exist to receive it. But writing it matters anyway. Johann sits down beside him. You okay? Define okay. Fair point. Johann looks at the sky. Stars emerging as darkness deepens. You think Victor's done?
No.
What do you think he'll do? Klaus thinks about the compass in his pocket. About Lucas in the forest. About Brennan's words. He'll keep testing. Keep pushing. Until he proves to himself that he's still in control of something. And when he can't, that's when it gets dangerous. They sit in silence. Somewhere in the distance, wolves howl. Closer than before. Winter is coming. And with it, Klaus knows decisions that can't be unmade. He touches the compass through his coat pocket. Still there. Still pointing north. But Klaus is beginning to wonder if the direction matters less than the choice to stop following it. December 1st, 1943. The first snow falls. Not the gentle Christmas card kind. The kind that means business. 6 inches overnight. Temperature drops to 14 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind cuts through the valley like a knife through paper. Klaus wakes to white. Everything white. The barracks windows frosted over in crystalline patterns. His breath visible even inside. The stove in the center burned low during the night. Someone needs to feed it. He gets up. Boots on frozen feet. Adds wood. Coaxes flame. Around him, men stir. Groaning. pulling blankets tighter. Johann sits up, stares at the window. How long does winter last here? For months. Maybe 5. Klaus blows on his hands. Get used to it. By 0600, the prisoners stand in formation. Shoulders hunched against cold. Faces red. Noses running. Fraser addresses them. Brennan translates. Winter protocols in effect. Work details reduced to 4 hours. No outdoor labor below 0 Fahrenheit. Extra blankets distributed. Hot cocoa available 2200 hours nightly. Someone mutters in German. They're worried we'll freeze. Another voice. Of course they are. Dead prisoners can't work. Klaus hears Victor's tone in that second voice. Cynicism wrapped as insight. Fraser continues. You'll rotate indoor duties. Kitchen. Laundry. Maintenance. Keep moving. Keep warm. Keep healthy. After dismissal, Klaus approaches Brennan. The farm detail. Suspended until spring. Mrs. Drummond doesn't need help in winter anyway. Klaus feels something unexpected. Disappointment. The farm was work. Real work. And Eleanor, he stops that thought. What will I do instead? Brennan checks his clipboard. Kitchen duty. Starting today. 0700. The kitchen is warm. Blessedly warm. 3 large cast-iron stoves. 2 Canadian cooks, older men, past fighting age. They teach Klaus to peel potatoes. Hundreds of potatoes. Mountains of potatoes. 40 men on rotation, one cook says. His name is William. 62. Gray mustache. Hands scarred from decades of cooking. Each man gets 2,400 calories minimum. That's Geneva Convention standard. We aim for 2,600 to account for cold. Klaus does the math in his head. 120 prisoners. 2,600 calories each. 3 meals daily. That's organization. That's logistics. That's what keeps men alive when everything else wants them dead. He peels potatoes and thinks about systems. About how empires are built on supply lines. About how wars are won not by heroes but by men who make sure the food arrives. By noon, his hands are pruned. His back aches. But he's warm. And there's a rhythm to the work. Meditative. Almost peaceful. Ernst appears in the doorway. Assigned to laundry detail. Klaus, you have a moment. They step outside. The cold is shocking after the kitchen's heat. Ernst pulls Klaus around the corner. Out of sight. Victor's planning something. He's always planning something.
No.
This is different. He's gathering information. Maps. Distances. Supply counts. He's asking questions about guard rotations. Klaus feels ice in his stomach. Not from the cold. When? I don't know. But soon. Before winter makes it impossible. December's already impossible. Tell him that. Klaus looks at the white expanse. The forest invisible through falling snow. If he runs now, he'll die. I know. You know. But Victor. Ernst shakes his head. Victor needs to prove something. To himself. To the men. To the war he refuses to believe is lost. What do you want me to do? Watch. Listen. And when the time comes, decide whose side you're on. Ernst walks back toward the laundry building. Klaus stands in the snow. Whose side? As if there are sides. As if this is still a war. December 18th. Evening. Klaus walks the boundary. It's become routine. Every night after dinner. A loop around the painted stones. Testing. Thinking. Tonight, Brennan joins him. They walk in silence for a while. Boots crunching on packed snow. Finally, Brennan speaks. You're looking for something. Just walking.
No.
You're looking. Every night. Same route. Same pattern. You're either planning to run or trying to convince yourself not to. Klaus doesn't respond. Brennan continues. Which is it? Neither. Both. I don't know anymore. They reach the north boundary. Forest dark beyond. Brennan stops. Looks at the trees. My father was German. Did you know that? Klaus turns.
No.
Morgenstern. That was the family name. Changed it to Brennan in 1939. Thought it would make things easier. Protect my mother. Protect me. Did it?
No.
People knew. Small town. Everyone knows everything. When the war started, suddenly we were suspect. Enemy within. My father lost his job. My mother, Canadian-born, third generation, got called a German lover at the grocery store. Brennan's jaw tightens. I joined up to prove loyalty. Thought wearing the uniform would make them see me as Canadian. But I got assigned to POW detail. Guard the Germans. Because I speak the language. He laughs. Bitter. So now I spend my days watching half of myself guard the other half. Klaus understands in a way he wishes he didn't. I let a British soldier live. In Tunisia. March 1943. He was wounded. Bleeding out. My orders were clear. I let him go anyway. Brennan looks at him. Why? Because I couldn't be the person who pulled that trigger. Not anymore. Not after seeing. Klaus stops. Swallows. I saw too much. Believed too little. And I realized the uniform didn't make me good or evil. It just made me complicit. So you surrendered. I chose to stop fighting. And now you're here. In a camp without fences. Free to go. But you stay. Because there's nowhere to go, Klaus says. I don't belong anywhere anymore. Not in Germany. Not here. Not. His voice breaks. Brennan puts a hand on his shoulder. You belong to yourself. That's all any of us have left. They stand in the snow. Two men divided by war. United by the understanding that all divisions are ultimately arbitrary. Klaus pulls out the compass. My grandfather gave me this. Said a man should always know which way is north. And do you? Klaus looks at the needle. Steady. True. I know the direction. But I'm learning direction isn't the same as destination. Brennan nods. Your compass doesn't point to freedom. It points to choices. Klaus closes his hand around it. Someone told me that once. Smart person. Yeah, he was. December 25th, 1943. Christmas. The Canadians set up a tree in the mess hall. Pine. 8 feet tall. Decorated with paper chains the prisoners made during craft time. Candles on the branches. Not lit. Fire hazard. Fraser gives a short speech. Brennan translates. I know this isn't where you want to be. I know Christmas away from home is hard. But we're doing our best to honor the day. The meal is better than usual. Roast chicken. Mashed potatoes. Gravy. Canned cranberry sauce. For dessert, apple pie.
Real pie.
With crust. With cinnamon. Klaus eats slowly. Savoring. Remembering his grandmother's kitchen. The smell of baking. The warmth. The safety of a world that doesn't exist anymore. After dinner, some men sing. German carols. Quiet. Subdued.
Stille Nacht. Heilige Nacht.
Silent night. Holy night. Klaus doesn't sing. Just listens. Ernst sits beside him. You know what's strange? Ernst says. I used to teach European history. Wars. Conflicts. Treaties. I could recite dates. Explain causes. But I never understood, really understood, that every war is just Christmas interrupted for thousands of families.
Million, Klaus correcte Kietli. Million, Ernst agréé.
They sit in silence.
Victory Shepsund.
He's in Barracks 3, with his followers, planning something, always planning. Johann appears, slides onto the bench. Can I ask you something? Klaus nods. Why did you really surrender? The truth. Klaus looks at his hands, calloused from work, scarred from small cuts, hands that built things once. Because I watched a boy die, British, teen, maybe 19. And when he looked at me, really looked at me, I saw my brother. Same eyes, same fear. And I thought, if I kill him, I'm killing someone's son. And for what? For land? For ideology? For old men who'll never see this beach? He takes a breath. So I let him live. And then I walked away from the war. Because I couldn't be both a good man and a good soldier. And I'd rather be a good man. Johann is quiet for a long time. Then, I don't know if I could have done that. Neither did I, until I did. I think about running, every day. Victor says. Victor is wrong. How do you know? Because Victor thinks freedom is distance from your enemies. But real freedom is distance from who you used to be. And you can't run from yourself. Johann stares at his plate. I'm scared, he admits. Of what? That I'll never stop being the person who wore this uniform. Klaus puts a hand on Johann's shoulder. Then prove you're more than fabric and stitching. January 1944. Winter deepens. Temperature drops to -4 Fahrenheit. Then -12. Then -22. The camp becomes an island. Roads impassable for 3 weeks. Supply train delayed. Fraser implements strict ration conservation. Not enough to starve. Never that. But tight. 2,200 calories instead of 2,600. Smaller portions. No waste. The Canadians eat the same rations. Klaus notices. Fraser doesn't exempt himself or his staff. Everyone shares scarcity. That matters. Victor seizes on it anyway. See? They're already struggling. Winter weakens them. This is our chance. But Klaus sees something else. He sees William the cook stretching ingredients, making soup from bones, baking bread with half the usual butter, creating something from almost nothing. He sees Fraser checking on sick prisoners personally, making notes, adjusting heating schedules to prioritize barracks with the weakest men. He sees Brennan teaching English classes 3 nights a week. Voluntary, unpaid, because idle men in winter go mad. This isn't weakness. This is professionalism under pressure. Klaus files it away. Evidence for an argument he'll make someday. Maybe, if he lives long enough. February 14th, 1944. Valentine's Day. Not that anyone celebrates. Klaus is on laundry detail, washing sheets in massive tubs. The work is hot, miserable. His hands crack and bleed from lye soap. But the laundry building has windows that face the road. And through those windows, Klaus sees her, Eleanor, walking up to headquarters, alone, bundled in a heavy coat, scarf around her face. His pulse quickens before his brain catches up. He hasn't seen her since November. 3 months. He makes an excuse to step outside. Cold hits like a fist. He crosses the yard. Eleanor emerges from headquarters, sees him, stops. Hartmann, Mrs. Drummond. They stand in the cold, breath clouding. You're thinner, she says. Winter rations. Everyone okay? Mostly. A few sick. Pneumonia. But Fraser's careful. She nods, looks at the barracks, the yard, the valley beyond. I brought extra potatoes. From my cellar. Fraser said you needed them. Klaus feels something crack in his chest. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just practical. You'll help harvest again in spring. Can't have you too weak to work. But her eyes say something different. How have you been? Klaus asks. Same as always. Surviving. You? Same. They stand awkwardly. Eleanor breaks first. I should go. Roads are bad. Be careful. She turns. Then stops. Klaus. It's the first time she's used his first name. I'm glad you didn't run. That night. With the boy. How did you? Brennan tells me things. Says you made a hard choice. The kind most men can't make. I didn't do anything. You stayed when leaving was easier. That's something. She walks to her truck. Climbs in. Drives away. Klaus stands in the cold until he can't feel his feet. Then returns to the laundry. Johann is waiting. Who was that? The farmer. Eleanor Drummond. You like her. I don't even know her. But you want to. Klaus plunges his hands back into hot water. Scrubs sheets that will never be fully clean. Doesn't matter what I want. I'm a prisoner. She's human. Like you. Human with a dead husband. Killed by my side. Not by you. Doesn't matter. I wore the uniform. Johann shakes his head. You're building your own fence. What? Brennan's right. You're telling yourself you can't, whatever. Can't live. Can't hope. Can't connect. Because of what you were. But Klaus. Johann grabs his arm. What you were and what you are aren't the same thing. And you get to choose which one wins. March 1945. Spring comes slowly, reluctantly. Snow melts in patches, revealing brown grass, mud, the bones of a world frozen for months. Work details resume. Klaus returns to farm rotation. Eleanor is there, waiting. They don't talk about February. Don't acknowledge the moment in the yard. They just work. But something has shifted. Small things. She packs extra lunch. Says it's leftovers. Klaus knows it's not. He repairs her fence. Says he noticed it was broken. She knows he went looking. They talk more. About weather. Crops. Nothing important. Everything important. One afternoon, rain forces them inside the barn. They sit on hay bales, listening to rain hammer the roof. Can I ask you something? Eleanor says. Sure. Why did you join? The army. The war. Klaus is quiet. Then, because everyone did. Because I was 19 and stupid and believed what I was told. Because I thought it mattered. And now I know the only thing that matters is what you do when you realize you were wrong. Eleanor looks at him. Really looks. You're not like the others. I'm exactly like the others. I just made different choices after.
No.
She stops. Frustrated. You see people. Most soldiers, mine, yours, anyone's, they see uniforms. Enemies. Targets. You see people. I didn't always. But you do now. That's what counts. Rain continues. Klaus wants to say something. Anything. But the words stick. Eleanor stands. Brushes hay from her pants. We should get back to work. Eleanor. She stops. What happens when the war ends? I go back to being a widow with a farm. And me? You go back to being a German who survived. Is that all? She meets his eyes. I don't know, Klaus. I don't know what we're allowed to be after all this. Then she's gone. Klaus sits in the barn, holding the compass. The needle points north. But for the first time, Klaus wants to go a different direction. May 7th, 1945. The announcement comes over the radio. Germany has surrendered. Unconditional. Total. The war in Europe is over. The mess hall erupts. Not celebration. Shock. Some men cry. Some stare. Some refuse to believe. Victor stands in the corner. Face carved from stone. Lies. Allied propaganda. But even he doesn't sound convinced. Klaus feels nothing. Relief? Yes. Grief? Also yes. Something else? Something bigger? He doesn't have words for it. Johann sits next to him. Pale. What do we do now? Wait. Go home. Eventually. Home to what? Klaus doesn't answer. Because Johann's right. Germany isn't home anymore. It's rubble. Ashes. Guilt. That night, Victor calls a meeting. 50 men attend. Klaus doesn't go. But he hears. Now. While they're distracted. While they think we're beaten. We go. Together. 20 men. Supplies. Maps. We make for the border. We disappear into America. We start over. Ernst returns from the meeting, shaking his head. He's serious. I know. Johann was there. Klaus's stomach drops. And he's listening. Victor's good at this. Makes it sound rational. Possible. Like destiny instead of suicide. Klaus stands. Paces. I have to stop him. Can't stop a man from choosing. I can stop Johann from following someone else's choice. He finds Johann outside, smoking a cigarette. Hands trembling. Don't, Klaus says. Don't what? Whatever Victor's planning. Don't. Johann takes a drag. War's over. We're still here. What's the point of staying? The point is staying alive. Alive for what? To rot in a camp? To go back to a country that doesn't exist. To figure out who you are when you're not being told.
Johann Laus.
Broken. I don't know who that is. Neither do I. But we won't find out in a forest freezing to death. Victor says.
Victorischer coward.
Johann's head snaps up. He's a soldier. A leader. He's a man who can't accept losing. So he'll drag everyone down with him to prove he was right. And you're different? I'm someone who knows the difference between being trapped and being lost. And running won't solve either. Johann drops the cigarette. Crushes it. I'll think about it. Don't think.
Decide.
Because Victor's plan will get you killed. And I'm not losing you to his pride. May 14th, 1945. Midnight. Klaus can't sleep. He knows it's tonight. Victor's been gathering supplies. Stockpiling. Recruiting. 22 men. Final count. Johann is one of them. Klaus tried. Argued. Pleaded. But Johann, I have to know. Have to try. Or I'll spend the rest of my life wondering. Klaus understands that. Hates it. But understands. He gets up. Dresses. Walks to headquarters. Brennan is there. Awake. Waiting. You knew, Klaus says. We've known for weeks. And you're just letting it happen. Yes. They'll die. Maybe. Maybe not. But they'll learn. Klaus feels rage building. This is a game to you?
No.
Brennan's face is hard. This is the last lesson. The one they need to learn themselves. That freedom without foundation is just falling. And sometimes people need to fall to understand they were never flying. Johann is my friend. Then trust him to make his own mistakes. And if he doesn't come back? Brennan is quiet. Then, we'll bring him back. All of them. We're tracking. We'll intercept at the safest point. No one dies. No one gets hurt. They just learn how far they don't get. Klaus wants to argue. But he knows Brennan's right. Some lessons can only be taught by experience. Can I ask you something? Klaus says. Sure. If I wanted to stop them. Could I? Could you physically prevent 22 men from leaving?
No.
But could I report them? Give you enough warning to stop it before they start? Brennan looks at him. You could. But you won't. How do you know? Because you're not that kind of man. You don't betray. Even when betrayal is right. Klaus pulls out the compass. The needle swings. Settles. I'm not reporting them, he says. But I'm asking you, as one man to another, save my friend. I'll do my best. Klaus nods. Turns to leave. Hartmann. He stops. You made the right choice. Letting them choose. Doesn't feel right. Right choices rarely do. May 15th, 1945. 23:47 hours. Klaus stands at his window. Watches. 22 shadows move across the yard. Quick. Quiet. Victor in front. Johann near the back. They cross the boundary. Disappear into darkness. Klaus's hand tightens on the compass. Johann is walking south. Into nothing. Into everything. Into the last lesson the war has to teach. Ernst appears beside him. You let him go. I had to. Why? Because holding him here would have made me his prison. And I refuse to be anyone's fence. They watch the empty yard. You think he'll come back?
Ernst asks.
Klaus thinks about the compass. About the difference between being free and being lost. I think he'll learn what I learned. That the door being open doesn't mean there's somewhere to go. And that the hardest step isn't walking out. It's choosing to stay. And if he doesn't learn that? Klaus closes his eyes. Then I failed him. No, Ernst says quietly. Then he failed himself. And that's the only failure that teaches anything. Dawn comes. Empty barracks. 22 men gone. And Klaus Hartmann, 29 years old, 163 pounds. Gained 11 pounds over winter. Fraser's careful rationing working. Stands at the window with a compass that points north and a friend who walked south. Waiting. For the lesson to finish. May 16th, 1945. 0600 hours. Klaus hasn't slept. He stands at the window, watching the road, waiting for headlights. They come at 07:15. 3 trucks. Military transport. Klaus's heart hammers. The first truck pulls up. Soldiers climb out. Then prisoners.
Wet.
Muddy. Faces pale with exhaustion. Klaus counts. 7, 8, 12, 15, 18 men who started together. Who walked into the forest as a unit. Who scattered like leaves when darkness and cold became real.
No, Victor. No, Johann.
The second truck arrives. For more prisoners. Hypothermic. Wrapped in blankets. Still no Victor.
No Johann.
The third truck. Klaus sees him.
Johann.
Alone in the back. Head down. Shoulders shaking. Not from cold. From something deeper. Klaus runs. Across the yard. Doesn't care who sees. Johann climbs down. Sees Klaus. His face crumples. I couldn't. I tried. Klaus pulls him into an embrace. Tight. Fierce. You're alive. That's all that matters.
Johann sobs. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. You were right. About everything. I had to see. I know. I got 3 miles. Maybe 4. Then the darkness, the cold. I couldn't remember which way was south. The compass was useless without light to read it. And I thought, if I die here, it won't even matter. No one will know. No one will care. I'll just be. But you didn't die. Johann pulls back. Face streaked with tears and dirt. I gave up. I just sat down in the snow and waited for them to find me. Because I was too scared to go forward and too ashamed to go back. And yet you're here. Because they came. Canadian Patrol. Found me. Gave me cocoa. Didn't laugh. Didn't punish. Just brought me home. Home. The word settles between them. Klaus helps Johann to the barracks. Ernst is there. Waiting. Where's Victor?
Ernst asks.
Johann shakes his head. He kept going. Him and 3 others. Stoltz, Werner, and Beck. They had more supplies. More determination. Victor said. Johann's voice breaks. He said the weak should fall away. That we were testing who deserved freedom. Klaus feels rage. Then pity. Then nothing. Because Victor is still out there. Still running. Still trying to prove something that can't be proven. May 16th. 1400 hours. The final truck arrives. Victor Reinhardt sits in the back. Hands cuffed. Not because he fought. Because he tried to run when the police found him. 84 kilometers. 52 miles. The farthest anyone has ever gotten from the camp. But still caught. Still brought back. Stoltz, Werner, and Beck sit beside him. Uncuffed. They gave up without resistance. Fraser meets them at the gate. Brennan stands beside him. Victor climbs down. Chin up. Defiant. Fraser looks at him. Long and hard. You made it far. Not far enough.
No.
But farther than most. That took planning. Determination. Leadership. Victor's eyes narrow. Suspicious of praise. Fraser continues. But it also proved something you didn't want to learn. And what's that? That distance doesn't equal freedom. That running from captivity doesn't make you free. It just makes you lost.
Victor Spitz.
Literally. At Fraser's feet. You know nothing about freedom. Fraser doesn't flinch. I know enough to not confuse it with movement. You can walk 1,000 miles and still be trapped. Or you can stay in one place and be the freest man alive. Depends on what's in here. He taps his head.
Victor Limes.
Guards restrain him. Not violently, just firmly. Fraser's expression doesn't change. 10 days restricted quarters. No work detail. Meals brought to you. After that, back to normal routine. No further punishment. Victor goes still. You're not even going to. Going to what? Beat you? Humiliate you? Make an example? Fraser shakes his head.
No.
Because that would make you a martyr. Would prove to your men that I'm the tyrant you claim. But I'm not. I'm just a man doing a job. And my job is to keep you alive and human until you can go home. He turns to the guards. Take him to isolation. Make sure he's warm and fed. They lead Victor away. Klaus watches. Sees the moment Victor's shoulders sag. Sees the exact second the fight drains out. Not from punishment. From mercy. Because mercy, when you're expecting brutality, breaks something punishment never could. The camp settles. The escape attempt becomes history.
A cautionare tale.
Victor serves his 10 days. Returns to routine. But something in him is broken. The certainty. The conviction. The absolute belief that his way was right.
Johann recovers slowly.
Not physically. that takes 3 days. But mentally, emotionally, that takes longer. He and Klaus sit outside one evening. Mid-May, air warming, spring insects beginning to chirp. I understand now, Johann says. Understand what? What you meant. About the fence. It wasn't out there. It was... He taps his head. In here. Fear. Confusion. The belief that I had to keep fighting even when the fight was over. Klaus nods. And now I know. The door's open. Has been all along. But walking through it doesn't mean running away. It means choosing what comes next. And what comes next for you? Johann looks at the valley. The mountains. The sky. I don't know yet. But I'll figure it out. Without needing Victor to tell me. Without needing anyone to tell me. He looks at Klaus. Thank you. For not stopping me. For letting me learn. Klaus puts a hand on his shoulder. That's what friendship is. Knowing when to hold on and when to let go. August 1945. The war is over. Truly over. Japan surrendered August 15th. Repatriation begins. Prisoners leave in groups. 20 at a time. Shipped to holding facilities. Then to ports. Then home. Whatever home means now. Klaus is in the final group. November departure. He has months left. He spends them working Eleanor's farm. They don't talk about after. Don't plan. Don't promise. They just work. Side by side. Planting winter crops. Repairing equipment. Existing in the small pocket of time before everything changes. One October afternoon, Eleanor stops mid-task. What will you do when you go back? Klaus leans on his shovel. Find my family. If they're alive. Rebuild. If there's anything to rebuild. And if there's not, then I'll figure out what comes next. Eleanor nods. Doesn't look at him. I'll miss this. The help. The company. Just the help. She turns. Meets his eyes.
No.
Not just the help. They stand in the field. Wind moving through brown grass. The mountains distant and unchanging. I can't ask you to stay, Eleanor says. You have a life. Family. I know. But if things were different, they're not.
No.
They're not. Klaus pulls the compass from his pocket. Looks at it. Then hands it to Eleanor. Keep this. Klaus, I can't. Please. It's been pointing me in circles for 2 years. Maybe it'll do better with you. Eleanor takes it. Closes her hand around the brass. What will you use? I'll figure out direction without it. Time I learned anyway. November 12th, 1945. The day before departure. Klaus walks the boundary one last time. Johann walks beside him. Strange, Johann says. 2 years ago, this line felt like a wall. Now it just feels like a suggestion. Yeah. They stop at the northern edge. Look at the forest. You think Victor learned anything?
Johann asks.
Klaus considers. I think Victor learned that his way doesn't work. Whether that changes him, he shrugs. That's up to him. And you? What did you learn? Klaus thinks about the compass. About Eleanor. About Brennan. About Fraser. About every moment that bent him closer to understanding. I learned that the strongest prisons are the ones we build in our minds. And the only way out is to stop believing in the walls. November 13th, 1945. Dawn. 120 prisoners arrived. 73 leave. The rest died of illness, accidents, or were transferred. Klaus stands with his kit. Johann beside him. Ernst nearby. Fraser addresses them. Final words. You came here as enemies. You leave as men. What you do with that distinction is up to you. But remember, the world you're returning to isn't the one you left. It's broken, angry, wounded. You can add to that. Or you can choose something different. The prisoners board trucks. Klaus looks back once. Sees Brennan. Standing at attention. Face unreadable. Their eyes meet. Brennan nods. Klaus nods back. Everything that needed saying was said in 2 years of walking boundaries and learning about fences. The truck pulls away. June 1960. Klaus Hartmann stands in Fraser Valley again. 45 years old now. graying at the temples, lines around his eyes. Beside him, his son, 10 years old, curious, asking questions. Papa, where was the camp? Klaus points. There, where those houses are now. The barracks are gone, torn down years ago, civilian homes built on the land. But Klaus can still see the outline, the ghost of it. Where were the fences? There weren't any. His son frowns. But how did they keep you? Klaus kneels, looks his son in the eyes. They didn't keep us. We kept ourselves. Because freedom isn't about open doors. It's about knowing what to do when you find one. I don't understand. You will. Someday. They walk the old boundary. Klaus finds one painted stone. Still there. Faded but present. He picks it up. His son watches. What are you thinking, Papa? I'm thinking about a man who gave me cocoa when I could have run. About a woman who showed me that enemies are just people on the wrong side of bad decisions. About a friend who taught me that choosing to stay can be braver than running. Are they still here? Some. Brennan runs the veterans office in Vancouver. Eleanor. He stops. Eleanor still farms. We write sometimes. Why didn't you stay? Klaus sets the stone back down. Because I had to go home first. Had to see what remained. Had to try to rebuild. He touches his son's shoulder. But I brought you here so you'd understand. Home isn't where you're from. It's where you choose to build. September 1983. Klaus, 68 years old, sits with his son. Now 33, married, with children of his own. I want to give you something. He opens a small wooden box. Inside, a brass compass. Eleanor sent this back, after she passed last year. Said in her will I should have it. Said it pointed me away once, and maybe it was time to point me back. His son takes it, turns it over, reads the inscription Klaus never noticed before. To Alistair, may you always find your way home. Mother, 1920. This was Fraser's? Must have been. Eleanor must have gotten it somehow. And now, Klaus closes his son's hand around it. Now it's yours. What should I do with it? Klaus smiles. Tired. Content. Whatever you need. Use it to find direction. Or learn you don't need it. But remember, north is just north. Where you go with that information. That's the only choice that matters. The lesson isn't about heroes or villains. It's about how easily a freight car of men becomes a footnote. How thin the line between being seen and erased. They didn't need barbed wire because the prisoners brought their own. Built from fear, propaganda, distance, and the stories we tell about who deserves freedom. The strongest prison isn't made of iron. It's made of what we believe about the world. About ourselves. About what's possible. Ernst Lindemann's book, Prisons Without Walls, published 1947, has been cited in over 340 academic papers. His work shaped how democratic nations treat prisoners of war. Callum Brennan served as Director of Veterans Affairs for British Columbia from 1952 to 1978. He pioneered programs for immigrant veteran integration. Eleanor Drummond farmed until 1979. When she died in 1982, her will donated the land to a refugee resettlement program. Because, she wrote, everyone deserves earth under their feet and sky overhead. And Klaus Hartmann, he rebuilt, slowly, in a Germany that didn't want to remember. But every year on November 8th, he thought about a door sliding open. About expecting wire and seeing valley. About the terrible, beautiful moment when he realized the only fence that mattered was the one he'd carry forever. Not as burden. His choice. The door was never locked. We just needed permission from ourselves to walk through it. How many doors are we standing in front of right now? Unlocked, open, waiting, while we search for keys we already hold.